The only thing white people have lost they have lost the ability to do is to say nigga without consequences. That's it. What else have they lost? Donald Sterling said made $2 billion saying.
Well,
Joe Rogan said he made $150 million.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making. We're here to...
DL Hughley is making it loud and clear. He's not rocking with the Academy Awards at all. And he even had something to say about Michael B. Jordan chasing that Oscar after that messy situation at the Baptist church. Now let's get this straight. DL didn't come for Michael on a personal level. Instead, he put the whole system on blast, calling it what he believes is a humiliation setup for black actors. DL has said before he doesn't really rate these awards like that, and he's been vocal about black people not needing to beg for validation or approval. Then he dropped this online, saying whether it's the Oscar committee or even a grand jury, when decisions are made behind closed doors, it rarely ends well for black folks. And listen, DL's been in Hollywood long enough to see the trade-offs that come with fame and recognition. He's seen what people gain and what they lose. He pointed to Will Smith grinding for years to finally get that Oscar, only for it to be overshadowed by him slapping another black man on that same stage. Then there's Halle Berry, who won for playing a black woman caught in a painful situation with a racist prison guard who had a role in her husband's execution. That role came with heavy trauma, intense scenes, and a storyline that leaned into redeeming a white character through her pain. After that historic win, what really changed for Halle? DL is basically saying her career didn't level up the way people expected. It slowed down, and now she's mostly seen in straight-to-streaming projects. Still, when Halle won back in 2002, she made it bigger than herself, dedicating that moment to Dorothy Dandridge and every woman of color who fought hard just to be seen and get a seat at that table. But what did Halle's win really change in the bigger picture? Even Halle admitted she thought that moment would open doors, more roles, better scripts, real opportunities that actually matter. Instead, what did she get? Catwoman. And not in a good way. Fast forward over 2 decades later, and she's still the only black woman to ever win Best Actress in a leading role at the Oscars. That says a lot. Then look at Lupita Nyong'o. She took home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for 12 Years a Slave, a powerful performance that had everyone talking. But after that win, the offers that followed mostly kept putting her back into the same type of roles tied to struggle and history, instead of showing her full range. Now this is where the whole Michael B. Jordan Oscar situation starts getting real complicated. Just weeks ago at the Baptist event, Michael was on stage presenting an award when a man with Tourette's syndrome suddenly shouted a racial slur at him and his Sinners co-star, Delroy Lindo. And yes, the man has Tourette's syndrome. So, let's say it was just an unfortunate coincidence that he shouted that exact word at the precise moment 2 black actors were standing on stage. That part, people can accept. But here's where things start to feel off. The BAFTA Awards were pre-recorded with about a 2-hour delay, and the BBC had full control to edit out moments they didn't want viewers at home to see. And let's be honest, if that same slur had been directed at certain other communities, it likely would have been cut immediately. No questions asked. So why was this left in? Why allow that moment to air and put 2 black actors in that position in front of millions watching worldwide? And it doesn't stop there. Michael B. Jordan didn't publicly address the incident at all. Delroy Lindo later shared that he wished someone from BAFTA had at least checked in with him afterward, but Michael stayed quiet and just kept it moving. Then not long after, he ends up winning an Oscar, and that timing has people raising eyebrows. This is exactly what DL Hughley is pointing at when he talks about a so-called humiliation setup.
Moment is for Dorothy Dandridge, Lena Horne, Diane Carroll. It's for the women that stand beside me, Jada Pinkett, Angela Bassett, Vivica Fox, and it's for every nameless, faceless woman of color that now has a chance because his door tonight has been opened.
First comes the public embarrassment, then the same system that didn't step in turns around and hands you a shiny award, expecting gratitude and a smile for the cameras. It starts to feel like a pattern that's hard to ignore. So the real question becomes this: can you take the disrespect and still play along? Can you stay quiet, not push back? and be seen as the safe black actor who doesn't shake the room? That's the bigger picture people are starting to look at. For many actors of color, the Oscars start to look less like recognition and more like a test. Can you follow the rules, smile through uncomfortable moments, take on roles that box you in, and still call it art at the end of the day? That's what DL Hughley is getting at when he says black people shouldn't be chasing approval or acceptance from systems that don't fully respect them. And here's something that really makes people stop and think. In the entire 96-year history of the Academy Awards, not one black director has ever won Best Director. Not one. The nominations alone are rare. You can almost count them on one hand. John Singleton broke ground in 1991 with Boys in the Hood, but didn't take the win. Lee Daniels got recognized for Precious, still no win. Steve McQueen was nominated for 12 Years a Slave, again, no Best Director trophy. Barry Jenkins, with Moonlight, lost out to Damien Chazelle for La La Land. And Spike Lee, one of the most influential filmmakers ever, didn't even get nominated until 2019 for Black Klansman, and still didn't win Best Director. Now really think about what that says about the system and who it chooses to reward. Black actors can show up in stories centered around white characters and win awards for playing roles tied to struggle, maids, enslaved people, or characters whose lives revolve around someone else's journey. But when it comes to telling their own stories, shaping their own narratives, and having full creative control, that's where the industry seems to hesitate. And that lines up with what DL Hughley is calling out when he talks about a pattern that feels bigger than coincidence. And this isn't new. It goes all the way back to the early days of Hollywood. Hattie McDaniel made history in 1940 as the first black Oscar winner for Gone with the Wind, playing a maid. But even on that historic night, she wasn't treated equally. She had to sit at a segregated table in the back, separated from her white co-stars. That moment says everything about the environment she was navigating. And it didn't stop there. When Hattie passed away in 1952, she wanted to be buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, but she was denied because of segregation policies at the time. For years, there wasn't even a proper marker to honor her. It wasn't until 1999 that a memorial was finally placed for her, decades after her death. Hattie was making a choice that many actors still face today: take the limited roles available and hope it leads to something greater. But for her, that breakthrough didn't translate into lasting opportunity, and she spent much of her career still fighting for better roles and recognition. Fast forward to today, and certain storytelling patterns still stand out. Films like The Blind Side and Green Book have been criticized for centering stories in a way where a black character's journey is often framed through another perspective, rather than fully explored on its own terms. It raises questions about whose voice is driving the narrative and how these stories are being presented to audiences. And according to Dr. Reed, a professor of Afro-American history at Illinois State University, Sinners doesn't really break the mold either. He recently shared a critique saying the film presents a version of empowerment that doesn't fully deal with the real issues. Dr. Reed argues that the movie pushes the idea that overcoming oppression is just about realizing personal power. But as he points out, confidence alone can't fix systems built on deep economic inequality and long-standing structures. You might agree with him or not, but it adds another layer to the conversation. At the end of the day, the industry still has its challenges. And being invited to celebrate at the same table after a public moment of disrespect doesn't automatically mean things have changed. That's where the debate really heats up. Now, some people watching might be thinking, it's not that serious. Just be happy for Michael B. Jordan. And on the surface, sure, it is a big moment. A talented black actor getting recognized on a major stage matters. But here's where DL Hughley's point comes in strong. Focusing only on individual wins while ignoring the bigger system can miss what's really going on behind the scenes. And when it comes to Michael B. Jordan, there's another angle people bring up. He's widely seen as someone Hollywood feels comfortable with, someone who doesn't often step into controversy or make statements that could shake things up. If you look at his interviews or public appearances, he tends to keep things measured and neutral. Even after that BAFTA moment where an offensive word was shouted from the audience, he didn't publicly address it. And for some, that silence becomes part of the bigger conversation about expectations, image, and how the industry operates. And that silence is what really gets people talking. Because in moments like that, people aren't just looking at what happened. They're watching how you respond. Do you speak up, or do you stay quiet and keep everything smooth? For some, that quiet approach looks strategic. In an industry where one wrong move can cost you roles, deals, and opportunities, staying neutral can feel like the safest play. But for others, it raises a bigger question. At what point does staying quiet start to look like going along with the system? This is where DL Hughley's argument keeps coming back into focus. It's not just about one actor or one moment, it's about a pattern that people feel keeps repeating. You play the game.
After I won that Academy Award, you think, oh, I'm gonna get lead roles here and there. Oh, Lupita, we'd like to play another movie where you're a slave, but this time you're on a slave ship. Those are the kinds of offers I was getting in the months after winning my Academy Award.
Deborah and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to
avoid controversy, accept how things are, and in return, you get rewarded. That's how some see it. And to be clear, this doesn't take away from Michael B. Jordan's talent at all. He's put in the work, delivered strong performances, and built a solid career. But the conversation isn't really about ability. It's about the environment around that success and what it expects in return. Because when you zoom out, it starts to look less like isolated situations and more like a system that runs on unspoken rules. And the real question people are asking now is simple. Who benefits from those rules staying exactly the same? And once you start asking that question, everything begins to hit different. Because it's not just about awards anymore. It's about who controls the narrative and who gets to define what success even looks like. If the system is the one handing out the rewards, setting the standards, and deciding which stories get pushed forward, then of course it's going to protect its own image first. That's why certain types of roles and storylines keep getting highlighted, while others barely get the same spotlight. And this is where more people are starting to shift their thinking. Instead of chasing validation from institutions that have a long history of uneven recognition, there's a growing focus on building something independent, something that doesn't rely on approval from the same gatekeepers. That energy has been getting stronger over time. Because at the end of the day, an award is just a symbol. It looks powerful, it feels important, but it doesn't always reflect real progress behind the scenes. Real change shows up in opportunities, ownership, and who gets to tell stories without limits. So when people hear DL Hughley speak on this, it's not just about criticism, it's about questioning the whole setup. And whether people agree or disagree, one thing is clear. The conversation isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and more eyes are starting to look at the system a whole lot closer. And now the conversation is spreading even further. People aren't just debating one moment or one award anymore. They're starting to question the entire system from top to bottom. Social media, interviews, podcasts, everywhere you look, the same question keeps popping up. Is this real progress or just the same cycle dressed up differently? Because when you line everything up, the roles that get rewarded, the silence during uncomfortable moments, and the patterns that keep repeating, it starts to feel less random and more calculated to some observers. That's why these conversations aren't dying down, they're picking up speed. At the same time, there are others who push back on that idea. They argue that change takes time, that progress doesn't always happen all at once, and that every win still matters, no matter how small it may seem. And that perspective is part of the conversation too. But what's undeniable is this. People are paying closer attention than ever before. They're not just watching the performances on screen, they're watching everything happening around it. Who gets promoted, who gets protected, who gets overlooked. It's all under a microscope now. And that shift in attention, that alone changes the pressure on the industry. Because when more people start asking questions and expecting better, it becomes harder for the same patterns to keep sliding by unnoticed. Some fans are even drawing comparisons between Michael B. Jordan and what Michael Jordan faced back in the 90s. Remember when Michael Jordan said, "Republicans buy sneakers too," and chose not to publicly support a black candidate running against someone widely criticized? That moment stuck with people. And now some are saying this feels like a similar kind of energy. And to them, that's exactly why Hollywood embraces Michael B. Jordan. He's got the talent to lead major films, no doubt about that. But at the same time, he's seen as someone who won't rock the boat or make powerful people uncomfortable. He's not known for making bold public statements that could risk future roles, and that's where the conversation gets real. That lines right up with what DL Hughley has been saying this whole time. When decisions are made behind closed doors, whether it's the Oscar committee or anything else, the outcomes don't always feel fair to everyone involved, and that idea is what's fueling all this debate right now. But now it's your turn to speak on it. Do you agree with DL, or do you think people are reading too deep into the situation? How do you see Michael B. Jordan's position in Hollywood today? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stay locked in for the next video.